Good evening, everybody, and this is the regular meeting of the Housing Committee for March 5th, 2025. I am Kathy Hunter, and I will be chairing tonight's meeting. And tonight we are joined by Elaine Feldman, Chris Dickerson, Mary Dean, Louis Schaefer, and Jim Graham. So we do have a quorum.
Not that nice.
So the first, hello. The first item on the agenda is the approval of the minutes of February 5th, 2025. We actually sent them out, Mary sent them out very early to look at. So I'm hoping everybody.
Thank you, Mary.
You're supposed to do that.
Very comprehensive.
They were good, yeah.
They were good.
Yeah. And that's not
Well, I was
easy.
thinking of you, Elaine. One of my theories for minutes is that you should be able to tell what happened if you weren't here.
I could. I did.
So,
I'll make a motion to approve the minutes.
I second.
all right, all in favor? Aye. All right. Minutes approved. Second item on the agenda is public comment, and do we have anybody here for public comment? Okay.
Should I just do it from here? Should I sit here? What do you?
Whatever, whatever works. If you
Okay.
Anywhere, you need a microphone or not?
Maybe have it at the, what about for the, maybe here?
It doesn't. Yeah, there's no microphones. We're gonna have to project.
Okay. My name's Kathy Wick, live at 181 Rimmon Road. The First Selectman's most recent email newsletter includes a call for engaging in fact-based discussions. I applaud that sentiment and am here tonight to contribute to that worthy effort. We all understand the damage that misinformation, especially when promoted by public officials, can do to our society. We are seeing it every day in Washington, D.C. At last month's Housing Committee meeting, many townspeople objected to this committee's zealous and expansive push for denser housing and to a proposal to construct a large apartment building. The meeting began with committee members furiously backpedaling, trying to distance themselves from any responsibility for the unpopular Fountain Street proposal. Perhaps you were unaware that both the developer's application for the zone changes and the application to construct the building quoted extensively from your committee's own affordable housing plan. After lengthy public comments, the chair launched an attack on the flyer that informed people about the zoning change, the apartment building application, and upcoming opportunities for public comment. How ironic. If your committee had nothing to do with the proposal, why spend so much time critiquing the flyer about it? This irony was not lost on members of the public, including one person who sent me the following text later that night. Quote, "Did I mention how hilarious it was that the chair of the Housing Committee spent the first hour after public comment responding to the flyer?" End quote. The committee's discussion of the flyer was sadly not grounded in facts. The chair claimed that the flyer was inaccurate in stating that the zoning change increases the developer's profit while decreasing the town's overall percentage of affordable housing. This statement is supported by the developer's own remark that he was requesting the zone changes because the existing regulations were a, quote, heavy lift. All of the approved changes result in allowing more units and thus more profits. Moreover, one of the changes lowers the percentage of legally affordable units from 20% to 12%. That is a significant reduction in the number of affordable units he would have to build, resulting in more units rented at the more profitable market rate. The second critique the chair offered was even more puzzling and obviously untrue. The flyer quotes the committee's recommendation that the town add 1,000 new market rate homes and 500 new affordable homes. This is an objectively accurate statement taken directly from the Housing Committee recommendations to the Town Plan and Zoning Commission. The chair tried to contort this clear statement and claim it was somehow misleading because it did not include a time frame. By definition, an attempt to mislead is an attempt to create a misimpression. The flyer is silent on the time frame. There is no attempt to create any impression at all of a time frame, let alone a misimpression. The statement in the flyer is factually accurate and speaks for itself. Whether the time frame is 10, 20, or even 30 years, the recommendation seeks to increase the number of Woodbridge homes by some 50%, a dramatic and unprecedented increase. I reject the chair's accusation that informing the public about this committee's recommendations is fear-mongering. If people respond negatively, it is because they believe, as I do, that this committee's recommendations would be damaging to the town. It is not fear-mongering to tell the truth.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Good evening. I'm Amy Morella, 184 Rimmon Road. I'd like to follow up Kathy's comments with two observations. One of which is, if there were better dialogue and communication and listening to the folks in this town, there wouldn't have been a need for a flyer. People had to be informed, and there wasn't any information coming, or adequate information coming from either your committee or the Board of Selectmen, and therefore other people had to take steps to inform the public who should and know what's going on. The second is the very fact that these numbers were so dramatic is what's got people upset. It's not about whether it's 10, 20, or 30 years. It's about the fact that it's a 50% increase. And that this committee, as well as others in town, are promoting just extraordinary changes in town. And I'd like to point you back to a committee meeting, which you all had, maybe not all of you attended, but on July 1st of 2024, this past summer, you had a committee meeting with the Town Plan and Zoning Commission with a presentation by David Fink, the SCROG consultant on housing. Well, guess what he said? Now, I'm not going to be able to quote verbatim because I only have my notes, but I can tell you the gist, which what deserves being watched again and listened to, was that if a town has housing needs, you need to go slow and listen to people. It's not irrational for residents to worry about income tax. Again, later in the meeting, he said, go slow, make incremental progress. That is absolutely not what's happening in this town, and that's why you're getting the reaction that you're getting. Ultimately, I think it's the detriment of any changes in housing because people are reacting to the overreach in the desire for changes. So I beg you to please listen to David Fink, the professional SCROG consultant. Go slow, listen to people, realize it's not irrational for residents to worry about impacts, and make incremental progress. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you, Amy.
Is there anybody else for public comment?
Are you going to give me copies of your comments? So we have a copy of the minutes?
You want? I don't have written comments. I refer you to the TPZ and housing meeting of July 1. If you could put that in the
You don't have to
minutes.
bring them,
Yeah,
it's just
okay.
if you do it, makes it easier.
Yeah, but
I can email if you prefer that, or I can give you my.
It's really up to you if you want to have them fully in the record. Just email is perfect because then I don't have to reach out.
That's what I figured, that you preferred
That's
an
fine.
email, so I'll do that when I get home.
Thank you.
Okay.
Thank you both.
Is there anyone for public comment? Is there anyone for public comment? We have to do that 3 times in case somebody was hiding in the corner.
Nobody else here.
Okay.
Well,
No, please, thank you. No, it's a joke.
All right, well, with that, I am going to go on to the housing chair report.
Sorry about that, folks.
It's intermission of a little
Brought to you
music.
by-
I just didn't want to go past 3 minutes. I can only take so much.
Oh, is that the,
You
Yeah.
weren't here when we learned that we have to leave at 8.
yeah, so that's another thing.
I'm disappointed.
Yeah, I
Oh,
know,
no,
I do
actually,
have bad news, we have to
we
leave
got-
at 8
yeah, we
o'clock,
got
so
a
we're
lot
gonna
to
have to go through
We're going to
this.
have to
So
talk
I
really
can have an
fast.
early dinner.
This,
Excellent.
we're gonna have to go through this pretty quickly.
You've got 5 hours with this stuff.
We did hear public comment, and so maybe we could think about how we could address that for the next meeting in order for us.
How is one supposed to do that? I mean, if you hear things which are inaccurate and they wish to correct ours, that's fine. we should correct theirs when it's broken.
Well, one of
How
them
does
was,
one
You don't want to do that.
she said we spoke for over an hour. That's not true. I would have been climbing the wall at that point. You know, there was public comment that went on for maybe an hour, and we spoke for maybe 15, 20 minutes.
Yeah,
at most.
it's,
Well,
you know,
It's not just that, I mean,
it's
for
a,
example, the idea that it's on, this is kind of interesting.
And
The
she still
idea
doesn't get it.
that if an increase of 1,000 units over the course of 20 years is unprecedented, I mean, I'm an historian, I can demonstrate to you that that's totally not right.
And the
yeah,
fact,
just look at the history.
and the fact that she asserts that we tried to distance ourselves, we didn't try to distance. I was the one that was
It's just
upset
the way
about
to
that.
do it.
I was upset about it because we were wrong. We didn't vote on this. You know, this was something that somebody else did. Did they
Yeah,
use some
that's
of our
just-
data? Yes. Do we need?
I,
Well,
No, look, I mean,
I'm not gonna get out of it.
we had a discussion about whether or not that, you know, how many units in Helen Fargo and what our recommendations would be, and whether we should be aspirational.
Yes.
In the context of what it was that we were supposed to do, which is to offer, you know, a housing plan, that, you know, so that we can comply with the law. But that apparently got lost on a lot of people because they thought, you know, with the zoning commission, you know, and I get it. I mean, I understand people get upset about it. The reality remains, however, that we have a very, very meager housing. We have a shortage, and people need to live somewhere. And you know, and I can. And I love the 30% of 80%. It's, you know, it's 24% of their mind. Why we have to do it twice, I don't understand. But anyway, you know, we do have to make an effort. And I don't think anybody should apologize for that. And frankly, there was some stuff on that green sheet that was just dead on wrong.
Everything in that.
And some of it was disingenuous. So it's not. This
Yeah.
isn't the time. What are you doing? That was me. I had to stop.
And in an effort to catch myself up, I did a lot of reading today back to the, you know, our mandate from the Connecticut legislature, and we pretty well adhered to it, actually. We did what we were told to do, I believe. So, you know, I don't know how to fix this. Aren't we supposed to have an informational meeting coming up, or wasn't there one scheduled for the end of?
It was
that-
postponed.
It was postponed.
There was one, yeah, and I did reach out to Mika to see when that was going to be rescheduled, because there was a meeting that it was supposed to be February 27th with Dr. Don Pullen, and that got rescheduled. I guess there's going to be a different presenter, and I'm not sure when that is going to be scheduled for, but I like to know, because if they're not planning on doing, then I think we should
We
move
need to,
forward
yeah,
with an
we need to.
informational
And is that
session.
something that would require 35 days prior notice?
Oh, no, not for
okay,
informational
okay.
session, no.
And
no,
one
I mean,
last-
you have to be sympathetic that what you're talking about, the 12% and the 20%. You have to understand where the money is there and how that all works
Yeah.
out. It's not straightforward.
No, it's not.
You're not making more money because it's.
But it is hard to understand.
It's
It is
making
hard to
it more easier,
understand.
you have to underwrite the affordable units, and it's.
The developer's making more money if there's a smaller percentage of affordable housing.
No, it depends on
It's-
what the
it's
level,
underwriting.
what the level is
But-
that you are.
But if they didn't make more money, they would build at 20%. So they make more money than when there's when there's a smaller number of affordable housing units. They're gonna make more money off the market rate units. There's more market rate units versus the percentage of small, of affordable housing units. It's economics, it's basic
It
economics.
is, but there's another part of the economics, because you know as well as I do. If you get to a point where it's not economical for them to build it, they won't build it.
Correct.
So I think that's something that, I think they frankly would be very disingenuous, because I think they know full well that there's a sweet spot in terms of what you can get people to build in. And the more units you require that are affordable, the less profitable it is, and you may not get
Yes.
anybody to break ground. So,
Yes.
you know,
So maybe there's other ways to look at this than that way. Maybe there's other ways to look at this.
Yeah, well, maybe that's what we should bring the professionals in to explain to the political action committee that to understand the economics behind creating affordable housing. It's very complicated, affordable housing development is a complicated, if you do it with public subsidies, it's a very, very complicated capital stack. If you do it through, market rate developments, through set-asides, you have to have the right sweet spot in order for it to be, financially feasible. Because you have to use the market rates to underwrite the affordable housing.
One last thing I wanted to mention. I don't care what you say about me as long as you say it in a civil manner. What I get upset about, and Amy, I disagree with everything she said, but she said it in a civil manner. Kathy attacked you personally. That angers me greatly. There's no place for that in a town meeting for somebody who's volunteering their time. I just found it very upsetting.
Yeah, well, that's,
You can tell it's kind of sweet.
he's been doing that. But anyway, okay. Any more comments on our public comments?
I mean, look, all we can do is try to, let people know what we're thinking and why we're doing it.
Yeah.
And maybe do a better job of that, yes. But I think there are many people in that, and the people who oppose, just because more affordable housing. Frankly, just want as few affordable housing units as possible. And, asymptotically is zero.
Yeah, I mean, they're part of a political action committee whose mission is to not have development. I mean, their particular mission is not to have any development on the Woodbridge Country Club, but, thereafter they did have an assault against affordable housing in general. And this goes back to when we had the development from, what was that development? The last development. They
Which one?
the last development.
Like when our committee first formed.
Yeah, 2018, 2019.
What was the name of that company? I
I
don't remember. the
don't
name.
remember.
On the country club.
That was the,
Yeah.
So it was a development specifically on the country club?
Yes.
That was Toll Brothers.
Not the
No,
Toll
it was another group
another
after them.
company.
Yeah, I remember that they were gonna build.
I just can't, it'll come to me.
It's gonna be
I'm sure.
they were going to build
Yeah.
big houses.
Yeah,
on
big houses,
that-
yeah.
The stuff you could see
Yeah.
would be big and fancy.
Right.
And then the more affordable stuff.
There is something to be said for protecting open space.
Oh,
Okay.
absolutely,
And-
no question.
And I remember going to a town meeting across the driveway here. And there was hundreds and hundreds of people there who voted to protect that property as open space. And we received a letter from the first selectman at the time that said, we will protect this property as open space. So maybe they changed their mind, the town's changed their mind, they want to build on it. But there has been a push since day one to protect that property as open space.
Right, well-
It really isn't affordable housing, it's building, it's any building. So there's other places in town to build affordable housing, and there's other ways to do it. And I think we need to look at other ways to do this.
We are looking, but we did make a recommendation for the Woodbridge Country Club.
You
to
did,
have-
yes.
No, not we, this housing committee.
Prior to me being on the housing committee. you did make
Prior,
that
yes,
recommendation.
yes. I know you're part of this as well, but
Yes.
we did make a recommendation to Coopop and it was a modest, it was like, use 30%. We recognize the value of open space, but you have certain areas there that have been developed that are a brownfield, and there should be areas that should be dedicated for housing.
That's your opinion, and I respect your opinion, and I can have a different opinion.
Okay,
I
so
don't think that property should be
because we're
built
the-
on.
because-
So we should move forward and look
Yes.
for other ways, because if we look for other ways to build affordable housing in Woodbridge, we can bring people together. What you're doing is you're picking the one spot which is going to be divisive, when there's other places that we can look at in town that are not going to be divisive.
I'm afraid to tell you that we've already, not necessarily we, but other sites have been identified and
Not in the last 9 months since I've
and the
been on the
reactions
committee.
were quite strong.
And I've been
to-
asking the committee to, let's look at some other sites.
Right. So let me just
We did
explain
that.
one other thing that I think is really important that about all of this. The thing that we realized in looking at all the things that we looked at while we were making the plan in the first place was that Woodbridge is very far behind in developing, behind where it needs to be to have housing that's of different types in town and that can serve the needs of a variety of different people at different income levels. Very far behind in terms of the percentage. If we produce that property, if we use the Country Club of Woodbridge for some of the construction of affordable housing, we can make very quickly a more significant dent in that problem than we can in any other way.
What is a
If we have
reasonable goal for
one or
housing?
two here, 3 or 4 here, doesn't add up.
It's
fast.
interesting that Amy mentioned that, because I was not involved at all in that. Because I was reading an article online, this organization called Strong Town sends out a newsletter every week. And it was an article about crashing the housing market. And I thought, well, what's this all about? And I read the article and it says, large developments tend not to work because there's a lot of opposition, there's a lot of complexity, and there's little opportunities for finance. The best way to build more housing is accessory dwelling units. And I thought, oh, that's interesting, because when I suggested it, it got shot down. But we have thousands of houses in Woodbridge that can all have an accessory dwelling unit.
Okay, Chris, thank you for
Okay,
that
so
recommendation.
I'm just
gonna-
saying,
I am
there's
gonna go
other
on.
ways to do this.
Right,
We explored that like extensively,
Yeah.
and we put out information about it. You can't force people,
Of course not, you have to
To
offer them
read.
incentives.
no, but I mean, we've done, in all fairness, you.
Okay, but I'm in town, I live here, I work here. Until I got on this committee, I knew almost nothing about accessory dwelling units. So if you put out information, where was I? I'm here all the time, I pay attention.
We had it on our website.
It was on our
I hate to go
website.
back. I
Look,
wanna go
no
back
one
and
goes to
find
the
out.
All right,
website
and
to
I'm
look
sorry,
for
I'm sorry,
information,
we do have to be out of here at 8
Yes.
o'clock, and so we could continue.
Let me
this
say just
con-
one last thing. Jim sent an email about population, and I apologize. I just been so busy the last couple of days, but I sent an email to the group with 4 articles. 2 are about the American Community Survey and 2 are about population. So if you look in there, there's 2 articles on there about with our population numbers, which are different than what's in our affordable housing plan. And
And the census plan and the US Census, and I couldn't find anything that went
It's-
out more than 5 years.
So-
Projections. I couldn't.
The Coleman in New York, did you have a chance to look at that?
Yeah, it went out to 2029, thank you.
Yeah, yeah,
That doesn't help me.
okay. All right,
And thanks, Kristen.
so I'm gonna start my chair report. So in the events category, I just want to let folks know that there's a quarterly housing working group meeting, the SCROGS Housing Group meeting, that's going to be held next week, Thursday, March 13th, from 2 to 3:30. And that meeting is going to feature Sean Giel from the Partnership for Strong Communities. We did hear from him, I think it's probably 2 or 3 years ago, when he did a presentation for us. It's very good. He's going to be reporting on the housing legislation that's going on this session. That will be probably very important for us to know and understand, because there are some legislative proposals right now, because this is a long session, so there's going to be some legislation for sure that's going to come out on housing and zoning and things of that sort. So if anybody's interested in going, or if you could either go in person, or you could sign up for a Zoom link. Let me
What
know.
time did you say it was?
2:30 to, 2 o'clock to 3:30 on Thursday the 13th, I'd be interested in doing the Zoom.
Okay.
Where's it gonna be?
It's held at the SCROG offices, which is in North Haven on Washington Avenue.
Are you gonna go in person?
I am.
is there a Zoom option?
There is,
Yeah,
there is.
I'd like
yeah.
to- I'd like to.
So I'm going to just send it out
Just
to
send it.
everybody.
I think it's
I
on my
like
calendar.
that. He has some very strong views on things, so,
Sean Giel?
yeah.
Yeah.
No, good, I think it'd be good to hear.
No, he is good. He knows his stuff. I mean, he's very blunt.
Yeah, and he's also pretty pragmatic, and I think that's
Yeah,
important. I mean,
No, I think you'll learn a lot from this, and also at the SCROG meeting, you're gonna hear from the region's Comprehensive Economic Development Strategy Housing Committee, and that's just known as the SEDS. I don't know, I used to always have to do the SEDS for the city of Bridgeport back in the day, but they're gonna be talking about the link between housing and economic development. And I thought there was gonna be, I thought David Corris from MRDA, the Municipal Redevelopment Authority, the new instrument that they set up to advance housing development, was also supposed to be at that meeting, but the last agenda, looks like he may have been taken off. But anyway, it should be a good meeting. And I also did speak to the SCROG staff, and they are tentatively scheduled to attend our next housing committee meeting, hopefully for the April meeting. But maybe May, because they're going on a conference and they gotta just check the timing. And they're gonna be discussing the SCROG's regional housing strategy, and they did send that out. I hope everybody was able to get into it.
Was that a 181-page document?
Was that close? Yeah. Yeah, right.
It's 181 pages, because I looked at that and said, I'm not printing 100.
Yeah.
Yeah.
No, it's, right.
That was a stop sign.
Yeah, that's why we had to
So
do
they're
it.
coming to our meeting?
They're gonna come to our meeting,
Oh, nice.
and they're going to,
Ian
what?
and
Yeah, well, Stephanie, definitely, I don't know if Ian's coming, but if not, we'll at least have Stephanie. And she will talk about how we could, integrate this, because of Public Act 2129, we do have to plan and zone not only for the town, but for the region as a whole. So we're going to, she's gonna provide some recommendations as to what to incorporate into our, as we're updating our affordable housing plan, what to incorporate into that. I also reached out to the Conservation Committee. I emailed the chairs to send them that video. I said I was gonna send them on housing and conservation, collaborative, to see whether or not they'd be interested in having a dialogue and working together. I didn't hear back from them, but when we did our TAC Walk of the Country Club, and that's the Technical Assistance Committee that's working to redevelop the Woodbridge Country Club, I did grab one of the co-chairs, and she said she didn't get the email, and but she would be interested in seeing the video, and so I resent everything, but I still haven't heard back. I haven't gotten a response, but she did seem to be interested in watching the video and potentially having a conversation and working together. So it seemed to be a positive response.
Did we have the link to that video?
I did send
Did you
it
send it?
out.
You did send it to us?
Yeah.
Do you remember when you did?
I couldn't find it again. You can find it? Oh, it's my fault, I'm sure, but I couldn't.
I don't recall seeing it. Did you resend it?
I could resend it.
Is it a link to a video, or is it actual sending a video?
No, it was a link
It's a link to
to the video,
Okay.
but I could, what I'm gonna do,
I'm going to
because
send it right now. I can tell you if we get it.
do we have, do we have access in here?
access to what?
Wi-Fi?
I have Wi-Fi connected right now. Not, don't do the staff, which is, you need a password for it, just do the library one.
All right, why don't I just, because we have to be out here in 20 minutes, I will promise I will send it out. In fact, I'm gonna send
I'd
out,
love to see it.
I'm gonna send out the, instead of sending out the video and the link, I'm gonna send out the website to the, I think it's Litchfield Center for Housing Opportunities, and, because they also have some other good resources on there. They have a plan, like a strategy, and how housing and conservation can work together. But if you go through, when you go through the initiatives, you click on to the Housing and Conservation Collaborative Initiative, and you link it to there, and right there they have the video, so you can't miss
You'll
it.
send that to us?
I said I would send it
Yeah,
to you.
you'll send it to us, okay.
Yes, I will send it to you. So I got Scribe, I got the video. Then the POC update, planning and zoning, we do have a special meeting next Monday where the goals and actions will be presented by SLR. So we'll see to what extent our recommendations do in fact get incorporated into the plan. And then I did want to give an update. I did attend the ordinance meeting today because they were talking about the housing commission. So I did say I wanted to show up because I wanted to understand what was going on with our committee, because I said people are interested in knowing what's going on with our committee and what's going to happen. It looks like it's going to be acted on. This is the ordinance to create a housing commission. Is going to be acted on probably next meeting, which is next week, is it? And I did review the language, and I don't see anything objectionable in the language that they put in the ordinance. It's really just to provide some structure, you know, to have terms, to have, you know, we're gonna have to stagger our terms. So, you know, the question is, I probably will be, I think by the time it goes through its processes, you know, because they have to pass it, and then there's going to be a public hearing, and then there's going to be like 31 days, you got to wait for it. I don't think it's going to happen any earlier than June or maybe even July. So I probably will be calling people in May or so to see if you're, you know, still, because we're going to all have to be reappointed to the committee. It's not like we just hop on. You know, they're going to go through a reappointment process. So
The public will have an opportunity to comment on our appointments.
I would imagine it.
Is that somebody's question?
Yeah, I can ask more about that, but they did say that people had to be reappointed to the committee. I would just say that if you are still interested in serving, just, you know, to let me know that you are still interested in serving. It's going to be a 9-member committee, so there'll be other people that would be coming on board.
I'm curious to know why they want to have it as a commission instead of just a committee. Do you know the answer to that? I mean, why would we want to have a commission as opposed to?
Yeah, well-
The commission is permanent, a committee is temporary, a commission is permanent.
I think we
Yeah.
requested it at one point.
Well, right, exactly,
Yeah.
Elaine, because it was, and they brought up the fact that it was a recommendation, and it was a recommendation in our affordable housing plan that we be made into a permanent commission. You know, frankly, you know, since you know, working with everybody for the, you know, past 4 years or so, I really believe that, you know, another commission is probably not the best idea. I think we should be working towards having a housing authority that has the power and the resources and the ability to actually develop housing. And so that I did provide that, you know, idea to ordinance. But I mean, you can have a housing commission and a housing authority. I mean, Guilford has both, so it's not like you can't have one and not the other. Well, I think we really should. I think we should move to, you know, at some point to having a housing authority so we can actually, you know, be able to create housing.
So if all of us want to be on this committee, and Donovan doesn't count, there would be 2 slots in for this.
Well, it's 9, so no, I can't count that.
With 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, and then 1, 7.
Donovan and
Well,
Warren.
as I recollect, it was, the recommendation was that there be a committee, not that this group be on the committee. I mean,
I'm thinking the same thing. But when there's a committee, the Board of Selectmen appoints people to it, and we could want to be on it, but they'll make the decision
Yeah.
of who's on it. We don't get to decide if we want to be on it or not. We can ask them, if we can ask them if we want to be on it, but they'll decide one way or the other.
Yeah,
It's up to them.
although as a practical matter, what happened with this committee is, I think, prior select person, Beth.
Beth, yeah.
you know, put people on.
Yeah, well, I did ask, I said, what's the process? you know, you're gonna do the commission, you just go on a clean slate and you decide, you know, who and what is going to be appointed. And they said no, they appreciate people's interest, because it's hard, it's actually, you know, it's hard to get people to volunteer and be committed, and they realize that we have a committed group here. So certainly, if people, you know, still want to continue to serve, you know, you could just make that known, and I would make it known to, you know, the town that, yes, you know, these people want to continue their service, and they didn't see any issue with the Board of
You
Selectmen.
have to have a balance, too, political balance.
Yeah, there's gotta be
So
minority
that would all have to
representation.
be- So our affordable housing plan does not say commission, it says should establish a permanent committee or commission. So we didn't say a commission. And interestingly enough, reading those 3 affordable housing plans that we read for this meeting, it inspired me to think we got ourselves in the wrong position here. We should be a committee that serves the population and should be seen as a group of people whose job it is to help the population understand about affordable housing and understand what the options are, and so for them to be not a target or considered the bad guys. Like we have a huge agenda that we're trying to force down people's throats. We are supposed to be the people who work with the public in order to understand
Yeah.
and choose wisely. And so if there's another, look at that. If there's another,
I think I understand a lot more about what people think, and I don't think that's the
But
winning
that-
strategy.
but when you look at the way some of these other towns work, the whole structure of the thing is different than is here. For one thing, they have a commission, or I mean, a commission, a housing authority, or they have housing personnel who will take responsibility for making these decisions and implementing them. And it must take a lot of the heat off of the committee and leave the committee to work with the townspeople to understand those things. And I think we found ourselves in the wrong spot here, so.
Well, we did say we're going to pivot to more of the educational piece, because I think that's what we need to do, is open up more community conversation and dialogue, because I think people just don't understand when we say affordable housing, they're thinking of, you know, projects or Follow Panic Village, or, you know, and that's not what we're talking about. We're talking about housing that's targeted to, like, you know, 80% AMI, which is talking about allowing your teachers, your firemen, your policemen, you know, folks that serve the town, that to be able to actually live in the town that they're serving, so.
And we started that way, but I understand, it's right after COVID, people weren't coming out to meetings. But we continue that.
We did
But my
we
biggest
started that
concern,
way.
my
Yeah.
biggest concern is that if we put new people on the committee, it's a victory for those who oppose having any development, because we'll be starting from square one, or they'll be starting from square one. And our grandchildren will be on this committee if they can afford to be in Woodbridge.
You know what, that's okay, though. I mean, I think it
But
makes
nothing will
perfect sense
happen.
it makes perfect sense to get other people involved.
No, it does make perfect sense, but if we start from square one, it doesn't, it means we've wasted our time, and I wouldn't want to serve on.
Well, I
the
think
committee.
we'll have a, you know, we'll have a, I think of a board package, you know, startup package, and they'll have we'll have lots of information for them to read.
It'll clear out 3 shelves in my closet of housing information, at least 3 or 4. But you know what, guys, I think we started out with every intention to educate and inform. We really, I mean, it was in the middle of the pandemic. It's not for lack of trying, we did really try. And I don't know how we have morphed into somehow being the anti-conservation enemy is actually beyond my ability
Yeah.
to figure out because we were never that.
No, we tried, I mean, we had like Tim Austin here, we wanted to understand the Greenway, we wanted to understand when we're making recommendations for land, we wanted to honor what they're trying to, what conservation is trying to do. Whenever I get a property that comes up, like for the property I do, I probably want to jump down to the bottom to make sure I get that. I run it by him to say, is this something conservation would want or not want, and I try to be, cognizant of what their goals are and to make sure that it's not conflicting what we're saying, so.
Yeah.
It's only, I think we try our best and we have to just keep on trying, but, so let me see.
Well, I think it's worth thinking about. If you're going to be a commission, there needs to be an advantage to being in a commission, a reason for having a commission. And I'm just interested to know what that is. If you tell me we've got a budget, that's a good reason.
Well, I did ask about the budget. I said, is there going to be budget? But it looks like if we have some expenses, because we do. I mean, I know you shelled out money. I got those, that poster, and that was not cheap. Putting together a poster. I mean, I'm not saying but it's a couple $100 that we end up, spending on supplies.
That's a reason for doing it.
Yeah, but they said that we could probably just submit that to the town.
Even though we're not a commission.
Right.
Well, then,
Before we
Takes
go to
it
the
away
next,
again.
I have a question. Sister and I got the invitation to produce documents later than everybody else, but I've done it, but I don't know what I'm supposed to do with it now. Have you turned yours in?
Did you call it Hannah? I'll tell you.
No? Did you hand yours in?
oh, she's gone. She's not there anymore.
Hannah's not there?
Hannah's not there anymore.
Hannah Guzzo?
I could give you the name of the guy that I was.
Oh, yeah, there's a younger guy, Taylor.
That's always the case.
Yeah.
It's always the younger guy.
Oh, yeah, always.
Yeah, I think
Did you submit yours?
No.
Anybody else? submit
I
theirs?
did, I followed the instructions and that was it. To download it, it's downloaded somewhere on my computer.
And I gotta update my download.
And I'm gonna
too.
say, tell me where it is, because I followed their instructions to the letter.
Okay,
It'll be in time for that.
Yeah.
yeah.
And it's easy for me.
Did you
Yeah, you have a-
send
you
I
have
only
a
have 8
small-
months worth of stuff.
yeah, it's
Did
small
you send
group.
it to them?
No,
You haven't sent it yet?
I didn't ask for me to send it to them.
Oh,
They
yeah.
just said download it. They didn't ask me to send it to them. I'm waiting.
Well, I think we need to reach out to the person.
Who submitted theirs already?
Okay, the guy I was communicating with recently is a guy named Robert Taylor.
Robert. He's the one I talked to also.
Yeah, the last person
And I
was the guy who does it.
downloaded, and did I do the note?
Well, she's still there, so I think she
Did you-
just
Did you turn yours in?
had it.
No, and he told me to
What's
let
the-
him know
do you have
after I
the email there?
downloaded.
Okay.
They are now saying that you can put them in backup storage, but that, he was saying that to me, because I didn't want to keep those folders on my.
All
But I
right.
already sent.
If it's okay, I like to
Okay,
just go.
go.
Sorry.
Boss.
I'm sorry.
Don't hold shut up.
All right, I did want to quickly talk about the updating effort of our affordable housing plan, and I really do want to be a little bit more vocal to push back on the image that was put forth by the PAC that people are ascribing to, that we that during the time we were working on the affordable housing plan, that we actually sat around, not doing anything and waiting for the consultants to deliver us a plan, and then we were scrambling to try to fix the errors, and we acknowledge it was a bad plan. We know that's not the case. We worked really hard on this plan, and we were proud of what we submitted. And yes, the existing condition sections was not perfect, but I think the important part of that plan was the fact that we had goals and we had strategies, and we acknowledged certain strategies in the preface that we thought was really important. So it's just the fact that this housing committee did work really hard for a year and a half to produce a plan that we were proud to submit on June 2022. There's been the new attack is on, the American Community Survey saying that it's not reliable. But this is based on census data. I talked to our planning consultants, and they did admit there's a higher margin of error, especially when you're working with a smaller town. And the facts and figures, really what they're trying to do is to show a trend in indicators. So I think what's probably is going to be important when we update the information, because the information that we're going to be using the Scribe information, the SR information, and Goldman and York and Cooper Robinson. We have all this new information, but guess what? They utilize the census data, and they utilize the American Community Survey. So they're using what standard data that planners use. So I think we just maybe have to say, yeah, we understand that some of this data could be, not accurate. It's the best information that we have to use.
Well, the other thing too is that with forward-looking data, there's no such thing as being accurate. I mean, projections are projections. They're based
Right.
on.
It's never going to be perfect.
Things may change. I mean, for example, you may have a pandemic arising, and a lot of people move out of New York and they decide to
Yeah.
come to
Yeah.
Connecticut, okay? Or not. I mean, you can't really plan for that, but all you can do is look at trend lines. That's it.
But you've got to start with data
Yeah.
that has some reliability.
Yeah.
And I've spent a lot of time reading about the American Community Survey. It does not have reliability for small towns. It is general, it doesn't. And read the
I
reports.
believe you, small samples
Yeah.
are small
You would have
samples.
seen, you saw in some of those other small
Yes.
town ones that
They started to allude to it.
They
started to allude to it. Our number's this, and this is what the consultant gave us.
Exactly.
And I saw that, and even the last thing we got from Scrog, the 2-page 2025 snapshot, had the disclaimer in there. They're starting to recognize, and look, it's only been around for less than 20 years. They're starting to recognize that this data is very, very inaccurate. So part of the problem is we have to have better data. And it's a big challenge. It's a huge challenge, but we have to figure out what data we need and how we can get it.
Can I ask why, this is not to you specifically, but this is just in general, why is it so significant that the data in our document, or indeed in the POCD, be very, very precise, particularly for the affordable housing plan, because the principles that we were articulating don't depend on that level of detail. I mean, whether Woodbridge's population is increasing by 0.2% or decreasing by 0.5% doesn't change the fact that we need more diverse housing.
Correct. But the amount of housing that we need, when you look at our current affordable housing plan, which talks about our population in a free fall, versus the latest data, which is a stable population over the next, say, 10 years. If your population's in a free fall, it's a much easier argument to say we need more housing. We need to build more housing because our population is declining dramatically. But if our population is level, and we're saying that it's declining because we're using the wrong data, that's a serious problem. Because then we build more housing, we're like, wait a minute, now we have too many people, we don't have enough room in our school system. What do we do with that?
If we were saying those things, I understand what you're saying, but everybody was saying.
No, I'm not saying, I'm just saying if you look at the data,
Yeah, if you had a.
and you say we need more housing, we need more housing. I mean, Kathy, you talked about 1,000 market rate homes. That's not affordable. Those are market rate homes. Do we need 1,000 more market rate homes in Woodbridge? Well, if our population were in decline, as it says in our document, maybe we do. But our population is not in decline based on other sources. Now, I don't know. I'll answer your question, Jim. I don't know what our population is. Even the town's website has a number that doesn't match any other numbers. So it's a real challenge.
I think the point that we're trying to make is the real important data point and which is verifiable by local data, is this fact that we have a 1% affordable housing.
That is correct.
That's
That is
undeniable,
correct.
so let's just
Yes.
move on.
So let's
because
rewrite this, let's take out the data that we can't verify.
I think-
And leave what's left.
You're right, I mean, I
Okay,
would
it would reduce the
vote,
size of this document
You know what we
tremendously.
could
Yeah.
do?
I would vote to
You know
just
what
put
we,
the,
you know what we could do? We could project alternatives. Growth at this level, stagnant.
You could do that.
We could do that and see if, you know, and see if it matters as to,
To what end? Would we be projecting a solution so precise that we would? No, I
You
don't
can't
think
do
so.
that. You can't do that.
Yeah.
And you
I
know
think
what,
the
and it's not
challenge
just
is-
population, like, one of the things that distinguishes this particular community from the three communities we're looking at, I thought particularly the Woodbury plan was very well crafted. But those are different communities. This is a much more affluent community, this is top-heavy, you know, in terms of income and that kind of stuff. And then that's going to, the reaction to bringing in houses or housing units in compliance with, you know, with AMI requirements and stuff like that is going to be a bigger shock than it is in a place where it's more rural, there are people with the same income levels. There are a whole bunch of other variables that go into this. And it's, you know, it's more of a multiple regression equation than it is, you know, algebra. So,
Yeah.
you're right, you can't, the precision, especially looking forward, the precision is not going to be, but we may say, look, if the population goes up, this population goes down, we may end up in the same place no matter what, okay?
And the argument to be made, if the population goes down, why are we building houses?
It's
You know,
Well,
it's,
but
I
maybe
think you're getting
it's
involved
the
in the
mix.
weeds there, you don't wanna.
well, I mean, that
It's
data was,
1.15.
you know, a lot of changes happened in 2020, which really impacted that census data, which caused, you know, what they weren't factoring in is the migration, like from New York to come into Woodbridge. So, you know, things change, national crisis does change the population in ways that we weren't projecting because we didn't think we were going to have a national health emergency. I want to just, if it's okay, to skip around on this agenda and then we'll go back.
I'm sure.
I do want to talk about the CUPOP recommendation for 52 Brookwood Drive. I don't know if anybody had a chance to look at that piece of property, but it's a town-owned piece of property that has a deed restriction for single-family use. And why there's a deed restriction for single-family use, I don't know. But
How old is the restriction? If you know.
I don't, CUPOP probably has it on the
Some of them
website.
existed a long time ago.
Yeah.
Isn't this the one we all looked at that that's like geographically, didn't we all look at this piece of property and discuss it?
Now, this is a new property that we're
It's in
looking
the
at.
same location.
But I did drive by it, and it's a lot that has trees on it. That's in, you know, it's on a street, and there's a house, and it's a lot with trees on it. So I think they're thinking about just selling it. I think that, you know, any lot that could be used for housing should be considered for an affordable housing unit, and I know it's, you know, it's just a little dent in what we need to do, but at least it's showing an effort. I would like to recommend that the housing be proposed for an affordable housing opportunity, that we could talk to either, you know, nonprofit developers in the area, Habitat for Humanity, and in the event that they weren't interested, because it's just a lot and just a house, and sometimes they don't want to go, they're not, you know, not interested in doing a small type of development, that if the town does sell it, that the proceeds will go into an affordable housing trust fund.
Which is a great idea, I think.
So any property that's designated for housing, that could be used for housing. So that was my recommendation. I just want to see what everybody else thinks about it.
Let's assume it doesn't exist. What is that done for? What could you
It's
put
a
on it?
residential A.
So Can you build
Where it is.
2 units?
Well, it's kind of deed on it, it says single family.
Let's assume it doesn't.
Oh,
have
no,
to.
then you could do a duplex, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, okay.
Yeah.
And that, could you do a quad?
Can't do a quad,
Okay, just-
yeah, can't do a quad, but you could
Does
do
it have-
duplex.
You could
City
do-
water and sewer?
No,
Now it's, you got,
yeah.
So you couldn't do it.
No, you can only do a
Two
quad
family.
if it has access to public water, public sewer, and it's not in a public water supply.
Is it in a watershed or no?
I don't know, but that doesn't matter.
Why don't we, can we talk about it at the next meeting, since we're gonna get kicked out of here in 2 minutes?
They wanted the recommendations before the next meeting.
I mean,
I mean, I
I'd like to look at this a little bit more.
All right, can you look at the next, like, couple, well, whenever the Coopop's next meeting, if you could let me know, like.
I mean, shouldn't we all look at this and have a vote, a
Well, I mean,
recommendation?
I don't know if people want to drive by, or you could just do a little GIS look and look at it. I mean, there's other ways of looking at the property. I mean,
Think about it.
I'm telling you
Well,
what I saw, but if people want to go out and drive by,
I think it's a good idea for us to weigh in on this, in this way.
yes.
It certainly does not presuppose
52.
that that is what's going to happen, or that, but if we fail to bring up the possibility,
Right.
in a situation where the possibility does exist and should be considered,
Yep.
then
I
I
agree.
think we're not doing our job.
I agree.
No, I'm sorry. I thought I sent this information out asking people to.
I don't
review
recall
this.
seeing it. I could be wrong because we get a lot of
Do
information.
you,
I don't recall.
I looked at it.
did
Did you
you?
send it?
Yeah.
Okay.
So I did send this out, and, you know.
There's a
I-
lot of information.
I know,
There's like
but
300
you're making
pages of
it sound,
information in
you
this
know,
one. I know, it's hard to
I'm
keep it
getting a
all straight.
little defensive, and
I
I'm sorry
understand
that
you
you're.
get defensive, but if we could focus on a couple of things, it would be a lot
Okay,
more
well,
productive. Okay.
this came up, and I needed to make a recommendation to Coopop, and that's, as soon as I got this, I emailed it out. I can't do any more, but
So
to text you and email
Coopop
you.
needs to have a recommendation by a certain point, because
By the
is it
next
imminent,
meeting.
the sale gonna be imminent?
I don't know, she
Okay.
just asked me.
When
to-
is their next
It's
meeting,
February, it's
Kathy?
February 20th is when it happens.
Well,
February
I
20th,
think
okay.
what this committee should do is point out to them that this is suitable for an affordable housing project, that it is suitable for a duplex construction,
Okay.
and that we would recommend that this be considered by Coopop for those reasons. And because it addresses our need for potentially our need for affordable housing and our need for smaller sized units, different types, in order to serve the needs of different economic groups.
So do you want us to
That's our job.
Can I
email
ask-
you and,
Are we okay with that, or do you want to go out?
Do we know,
and
how did the town acquire this property?
Foreclosure.
A foreclosure, yeah.
It's probably.
Yeah, I wrote all
I
the
did
information.
read it.
I gave all the information, Chris, in the email,
Okay,
so.
I'm sorry. It's
They're
a
gonna
lot.
ask us what the
Okay.
housing trust fund would be for, if we recommend that.
Well, the housing trust fund, there's, you
But we
know,
don't actually have to talk about that yet, because they
No.
haven't decided.
they
to
haven't
sell
even,
it.
they haven't even, right, so that's gonna be a long time, okay.
Okay, so what I think we should do is exactly what you said. Tell them that we would recommend that they consider
February 19th, I gave you.
the use of this property for an affordable housing project, and that this committee would be glad to help them identify a potential developer.
Okay, all right.
And that's what we're going to have to do.
All right, do you want me to, what I could do is write a recommendation, send it out, and if people have objections, Chris, if you go out and you have an objection to it, you know, you can let me know.
All
If
right.
not, then I will assume that it's okay based on my recommendation. All right, the other thing I wanted to bring up is that we have to plan for Earth Day. I can't believe a year has passed, it just seems like
Wow.
yesterday, but April 26th is Earth
Earth
Day.
Day.
From
Yeah.
10 a.m. to 5 p.m. I'm not asking people to be there from 10 a.m. to 5 p.m., but I would really,
Oh, I didn't go out.
really like to have people, you know, if we could just kind of divvy up the table. And we could talk about what we want to present this year. Last year, I featured the, you know, sustainable CT in terms of, yeah, the sustainable committee is trying to go for a certification. And of course, sustainability is very much, you know, housing, affordable housing, preventing homelessness is all part of sustainability, having a thriving, sustainable community. So I did highlight that. You know, we highlighted some homeless providers that were working in Woodbridge, and you know, we had a bunch of information. Hopefully, it's not windy again.
We had a million papers that went flying
Everywhere.
So, but if we could think of other things we'd want to see at the table, I'm all ears, you know, because
Okay.
Accessory dwelling units.
oh, we have that.
We should talk
have,
about that.
We got
we have,
great little
we have
widget
flyers.
Maybe we get some more stuff.
Yeah, we had the flyers, so maybe we can make a
If
poster.
there's more information we can disseminate.
Yeah, I have to find my poster. I think someone probably trashed it.
Poster.
Yeah, but I think the poster affordable housing, maybe we can make the poster, the ADU flyer that we did, maybe we can make that into a poster. You know, any ideas that we could, you know, now that I know I could build a town for some money.
Or go to town.
I'll just go to town now. So if you could think of what else we'd want to show. But the posters were kind of a pain when they got windy. Yeah. But anyway, any ideas? This will be on our agenda for next meeting, but we should come with our ideas of what we'd like to see on our table, because we'll have a table like this big.
Are we gonna talk about the affordable housing plan at the next meeting?
Yeah, we're gonna have to do.
We didn't talk about it tonight because we're an hour.
Yeah.
meeting,
Nobody's
but-
thrown us out so far.
Could we possibly get this screen and we could put everything? we could
By
all
the way,
see?
who is German in New York?
What?
Who is German in New York?
Oh, I'm sorry, it's Gorman, New York, I have
Gorman, but who are?
Goldman, it's supposed to be Goldman,
Goldman.
Goman.
Well, who are they anyway? They're not the PSDB.
Now, Goldman in New York is the town planner.
Oh, the town.
So Justin LaFontaine, I'm sorry, LaFountain. I like to say LaFontaine.
Yeah, it comes easier to, yeah.
He is our town planner, and that's the firm that he's with, as well as Dr. Dumpel. So we have a lot of different consultants providing a lot of data points. So, you know, I don't think we should have a problem with having, you know, finding what data we want to put in there.
Or attached, yeah.
So we'll have like 3 different versions of population, like that population, that population.
If we can get it as accurate as possible, there's less likely that people will be opposed to what we're trying to do based on data. If you have accurate data, you can't oppose accurate data, but if you have inaccurate data, it's a softball.
Well,
Well, your data's inaccurate.
That's my question.
I think we can get it as accurate as humanly possible, but it's not going to be perfect.
Of course, but accuracy is not perfection.
No, I mean, Chris, you're absolutely right. I mean, it's just easy to denigrate credibility when you can point to something that, you know, just doesn't.
Yeah.
It can be just one thing's wrong, and you know, and then nobody listens to what everybody else. So do that in trials all the time.
So.
Yes. I mean, that's what you do, right? That's what you do. It's easy. It's a softball. But we can make it so that it's accurate. We can make it simpler. But also, I'd also like to see some data in there on how we actually accomplish this. I want to see where we get tax breaks for affordable housing. I want to see how we get that. I want to see that in our plan. If you do this, you could get this. Because people are going to recognize that. If you build an accessory dwelling unit, you can get X amount of rebate from the town or the state or some entity. I think that's important.
Well, that's one of the things I was talking about. In some of these other situations, some of these other plans, the plan is for the town to give back.
Mhm.
And the town has to make decisions about foregoing permit fees or giving grants for people to rehab their homes in return.
Correct.
We can't do that.
Well, we,
You know, our-
but we need to push the town to look into that, or look into ways the town can get on it.
Well, I've been, you
That's
know,
what we need to do.
I have to say, I've been pushing the town, and I've been trying to get them to apply for things like small city CDBG in order to put more money into the homeowner rehab, particularly for seniors that might want to stay in their homes and they don't have the money to do the rehab that's necessary. You know, so I have done my college tried to do that. But the problem is, and it's just the lack of capacity in the town to be able to manage these types of grants. Though, we do have talks with SCROG, and SCROG is thinking about providing assistance for like small cities. So we are working, there's a lot of things that you're saying that we have been working on. The tax abatement is complicated, because
It's all complicated.
yeah,
It's
but
really
that's,
all
tax
not even
abatement
complicated.
is even.
But our town could offer tax abatement. I mean, they're gonna decide, the Board of Selectmen, the Board of Finance are gonna decide. that.
No,
They
the
can
tax
offer it.
abatement has to go, and I don't know if one of these lawyers would know, but I think the tax abatement actually has to be approved by the state, the tax abatement program, so
Don't we have
it's,
tax abatement programs for veterans and for seniors in town?
we have a tax freeze
We have
program.
tax programs for seniors, so.
Right, we
okay.
could freeze it, but tax abatement is
Yeah.
something different.
So maybe it's a freeze. I mean, there's gotta be a way to do
Yeah, I
this,
know.
okay? There's gotta be a way to do
The
this.
interesting thing is, do we have a population that would take it up if it were offered? And I don't know how to
That's a
get that piece of
Question,
information.
but if, and I
Maybe we
can
could
send
ask
this
people at the-
Strong Towns article out,
Oh,
because
yeah,
they talk about
the
this
Yeah.
sort of
tax
thing.
abatement, would you
Yeah.
If-
we're gonna ask
let a
the
stranger
birthday.
live in your house?
If you have a house with an accessory dwelling unit that you can get rental income on, the house is now more affordable for someone in a lower
It's like
income
in
level.
France, you can't have everything.
It's diverse. How-
Exactly. And someone with lower income can afford to buy it because they've got income from the house itself.
Is it body?
I don't know, are they
So there's options, there's
allowing us to stay a
opportunity.
little bit longer?
Well, part of,
Maybe they want to
if
sit.
you run it to be affordable with capital A, it has to be de-restricted.
Exactly.
And that's gonna be a tough
Accessory
sell.
dwelling units are deed restricted for 10 years.
Yeah.
Regular affordable housing is deed restricted for 40 years.
Did you notice in one of these affordable housing things, it mentioned that the city of Norwich has a law that if you have an affordable housing unit, it has to be de-restricted?
I didn't-
Did you notice
I did not
that?
notice that.
Well,
For
because
10
they,
years.
because they want to be able to count it,
Yeah.
yeah.
Wait, say that again, Mary? If
The
you,
city of Norwich
yeah.
requires that if you have an ADU, you deed restrict
Oh, the
it
ADU.
for 10 years.
You, oh, really?
Oh, if you have an ADU,
ADU.
it must be restricted, it must be restricted.
That's interesting, but I think Justin had advised us, which I didn't know about, that ADUs can't count towards our affordable housing count.
And you know what else they do? They don't count towards our total number of houses. So if we have 3,400 houses in Woodbridge, that's a round number, and we have 100 more ADUs, we have 3,400 houses. They don't count towards our number of houses. So if we could get
Interesting.
a certain number of ADUs deed restricted affordable, it's not like Fountain Street, where you're looking at, well, this is, the total population of houses is going up. The housing population doesn't
Denominator is
change.
static.
What's that?
The denominator is static.
Correct, the denominator.
No, right, so it doesn't like.
So that's another
So-
opportunity.
But it's a unit, wouldn't it?
Yeah.
The
No.
I'll go- I mean, it's
doesn't go
somewhere in this data, because I was reading that going, wow, why are we not pushing this? Because it doesn't impact the denominator.
But it doesn't impact our affordable housing requirement. either.
If they're deed restricted affordable, it
No,
helps.
it doesn't, and that was.
I'm not sure if he's right, but he did say that in a meeting.
That's what Justin
He said
said.
that
I'm not sure if
accessory
he's right,
dwelling units
but-
are not
Counted.
affordable housing.
Even if you deed restrict the ADU, it does not count to our affordable housing.
Which doesn't really make sense.
That makes no sense at all.
It doesn't make sense, and I
I agree.
question.
I'm gonna look,
Tell us that.
because that doesn't make
And
any
you know
sense.
what? And even if it doesn't,
Yeah.
it's still, it's not,
Yeah,
it's still a
it's
good
safe.
thing.
So diverse.
you know?
No, right, it is a good thing. I
Yeah.
think it's a good thing.
I find that very hard.
Yeah, so.
But I also think it's gonna be ways before people start
Yeah.
taking advantage of ADUs.
I mean, we really pushed the ADUs.
How many do we have?
We have
Seven?
Six.
Remember
Yeah.
when I wrote my little article, I tried to find out that exact, Chris, and I conferred with Chris Sullivan because I didn't want to get anything wrong. She said she didn't know because she didn't have a way of counting, which doesn't seem
No,
possible.
She didn't, right?
no,
She didn't.
subsequently.
But she ended up giving me a list because I had to take some folks from Wallingford as a favor to Ben Fink around to see what ADUs we had in town. And she was able to give me a list. I think
Great.
she had to produce a list for something else.
So what do you think, 6 or 7?
It was like 6.
Yeah, I
Okay.
think, actually, I think that's noted in one of the, maybe it's the Rolling York thing. There's something in there about,
6 since we started, since
yeah,
it was passed.
yeah.
The other
There's
thing,
probably more older ones, but they're, because you couldn't have a separate building,
Right.
you know, you could do it without actually anybody knowing.
Well, yeah, they were not legal
Yeah.
that's right.
two family units, but there were a lot of in-law apartments built in this town.
I'm
There are a
looking,
lot existing in this town.
I'm looking at the Greenwich plan, which happens to be very well written, explaining things, and they say specifically that there are only 10 of these that are deed restricted in Greenwich, but if they are, they can count towards affordable housing.
It
They
says they
did use
can.
it.
That's what
That's what Greenwich-
Greenwich
Let's-
says.
yeah.
Oh, you should
There must
know.
be uniform
There's gotta be an answer to
state.
that.
I mean, it should,
Yeah,
it should be
I
a
know.
state law, right? I mean, I think it
Right.
should be a state.
That's got it.
I always thought they would deed restricted ADU that you'd be able to count in, and I thought that was a really good idea, but then Justin did tell us
That's
that.
Justin.
Was it Justin or what? I'm trying
That's
to think. Was it
Justin.
Justin that said that? Well, I
don't
know
know.
somebody said it.
That's town
That's,
attorney.
yeah, that's what
Yeah.
That's the town attorney.
Well, I could, maybe I'll ask one of my housing experts.
Or, yeah, no,
Yeah.
that's fine.
Yeah.
But, you know, I mean, it's still,
So,
still a drop in the bucket, but still regulation.
do we want a SharePoint site too? Do people want to make notes on anything? Because there's no reason to do it otherwise.
I think we need a SharePoint, so all these documents that, yeah, I think, 'cause
Yeah, that would be
I give
helpful,
out a
common ones.
lot of information. I wonder if it's also accessible by the public to look at the documents.
I can't remember what SharePoint looks like.
I don't know if it's it's some kind of share, whatever
Is there
they,
a file or a folder, so you can do things on it?
I know-
SharePoint's when you can work on it. I mean, it's like Google Docs, you can work on
yeah,
something.
yeah. I'm not sure if it's SharePoint or a share drive. It's whatever, like the Board of Selectmen, they have a, they have a share folder. Because, Alice always talks about, oh, I put this in the folder. So I think it's a folder where, everybody could share it. And then,
Find it, yeah.
and then we could list, hopefully we could file our documents, and hopefully I could have like a file for, reports, a file for, I could try to make it
That would be
easier.
great.
So, yeah, but I apologize for sending out a lot of information, but, and there was even more information
That's all right.
I wanted to send out. I said, no, I gotta give them a little break. So with that, I think maybe we could talk about just how we want to approach the update of the affordable housing plan. Because I know you have the Word document. Do we want to divvy it up and update? What is your suggestion?
I don't think we should. I think we should sit here and do it. Because if we divvy it up and it's this 50-something page document, then we all have to read all of this and who did that and who did this. Let's sit here and go through it at some point.
But
Let's
I-
take a meeting, just focus on that.
The other thing we could do, and I think that makes sense to do that, in addition to that, if you have a document that you could put the comments on, just like even a Word document, just comment,
Mhm.
so that every, in advance of sitting down and going
Okay.
through it, I think
Yeah,
that would
yeah,
accelerate
yeah, I
the
would
process.
want,
As long as everybody's
Because
willing to commit to do that, but I think
exactly.
it would make some sense.
okay,
And
so.
then maybe we could set some, set some deadlines, like get the initial comments in by whatever, and then just try to.
Mary,
make it an
didn't we do
iterative
that with the
process.
initial, were we able to make comments on the draft?
Did we work in Google Docs? I don't remember.
No, I don't think.
Whatever it is, without necessarily,
Yeah.
literally you could put them in as a comment as opposed to
Yeah.
necessarily everybody, Because what you don't want to have, I take this word out and it goes back in, and
Oh, I
you
know.
don't want to do
See, but
that.
there weren't that many people, so I think we might have just been passing it back and forth. But if you put it in Google Docs or something like that, then everybody can work on it simultaneously. And
That's right. And if we could put comments in, my
Yeah.
name or your name,
Yeah,
well, it doesn't
Right.
automatically,
Yeah.
yeah, I
think that would make
would be
sense.
useful because, to avoid the, it goes
Well,
on.
some of it depends on how much we're gonna put in it too. Some of these are kind of gross questions. Are we gonna put the surveys back in? Or what,
No.
if we're not gonna put the surveys back in, what are we gonna do with them? I didn't,
I think we could archive them on our website. I would not put that back into the plan. And, I mean, one part of me says, we should update whatever we can update. I think there could be some sections here we'll just take out.
Take out because it's very long.
Yeah, it is very long, and, I'm thinking, like, we have data from, we have a SCROG, we have Goldman, New York that has a lot of data. Just use, maybe go from that, use that, update our information, and there just might be information here, I mean, like in a death wheel, where I can't even move. There's probably some information that's just not really important to the goal of, creating affordable housing.
There was a graph in there, at least one or two graphs in there, I believe, which talked about types of jobs in Woodbridge. Okay, administrative jobs and government jobs and this sort of jobs. But it wasn't related to income, it was just jobs. I thought, that doesn't belong in this plan. And it was wildly inaccurate. So that should just come out. Something like that, for example, just take it out. Just get rid of it. It doesn't, because it's not tied to income. It's a list of alleged jobs in Woodbridge.
It's fluff, I mean,
Yeah.
and
Well,
And it is inaccurate, so it should
I
probably
think
come
in
out.
that
But that's,
case, they were trying to demonstrate that there were people who work in Woodbridge who don't make enough money to live in Woodbridge.
yeah, but this is not that slide. The slide with the income, it's not that. There was another slide, I'm pretty sure it was in there.
Yeah.
It wasn't necessarily income based. It doesn't matter. I mean, you could sell shoes and make a lot of money.
In their defense, the people who were writing that were doing the same thing for how many more communities
Sure.
in this broad
It
area.
is,
So
you're exactly
what-
right.
So, and Woodbridge is so different than so many of them, so the kind of thing that they were looking at for Orange, for example, or Wallingford might have been entirely appropriate for them, and they just look at it from a student.
Chris, do you have the affordable housing plan on you? Because I can't.
Do I have the actual document?
The affordable housing. Is that our affordable?
That's our
Oh,
affordable
it's
housing.
a different
You
color.
just
Sorry.
ran out of blue and
I
red.
get it. You know how much it's cost me in ink?
Yeah.
It's cost me a lot of money.
Yeah.
Hit
Could-
the
why-
black
why-
and white button.
Chris, why don't you look at the plan, and why don't you assign the homework assignment as to up to what point we should be reviewing, so we could chip away at this? Why don't you give a suggestion?
Make suggestions as to what can be.
Say, let's review up to page whatever, and then we could work on that. And
The problem was, and we faced this back when we were doing this, the plan is inappropriate, it's too long, it's too much that's wrong in it. And we didn't know we thought we had to accept it. That's why we put the 8-page or however many pages meetings. Because it had inside.
The challenge was,
no, it's
this
Now we know
committee was under the gun to get this done. And you had a short time frame, and you had some direction from the state, but not great direction from the state. And every single town had to do this all at the same time, and you have 3 consultants basically working with all these towns, and it was too much. The state should have given 2 or 3 more years, but they didn't. So this was the first go around. Let's do it again.
The
and
state-
make it better.
The state mandate came out in 2017, so we had plenty of time to do this. It's just that people started like
Everybody
saying,
started.
folks, you gotta get this done.
Yeah.
So let's be
OMG
real.
started about
So-
3.5 years in.
Yeah.
Can I just mention one other thing that struck me about some of these other housing plans, and that you have spoken of it with regard to ours? There was some specific jobs, some specific accomplishments that they listed that weren't in our housing plan, or were in the back in all of those, those strategies where they were kind of buried. So, for example, one of the things that seemed consistent from many of them was instructive, I think, in some of the documents that we had, was that somebody should go through all of the local zoning regulations and look for this, and get it out of there if it was in there or fix it.
Oh, you're talking about the Public Act 21-29? Yeah, yeah.
Mhm.
That's a recommendation, that's a legislative
There's
recommendation.
Exactly, and it was incorporated into some of these other things,
Yeah.
and it was assigned, not to the committee obviously, but it was assigned to something.
Yeah.
And I thought, well, we didn't do that.
I tried to do that, and I did get some of it in there, but they still didn't take some.
Well, anyway.
Because I took some provisions out that are no longer relevant in 21-29, like character, you can't talk about character
Yeah.
anymore. And things, undue concentration population. There's just some terms that you can't, that are no longer could be used as a basis for zoning. But then the other items we talked about, that's in Public Act 21-29 is, promoting, having the regulations promoting, housing options for low and moderate income families, for the town and for the region. So there's and for the furthering your house.
Yeah.
So that is in our zoning regulations
That's,
now, so it has been updated.
Right, well,
So maybe that should be in our affordable housing. This has been updated in our zoning regulations.
and we could.
Yeah, well, that's why I
That should go
did,
in our
we
new plan.
did put that in there as
In
part
our-
of our amendment. It's not in there, but we proposed the amendment. We haven't taken up the amendment because now they want us to do this.
And as long
Do
as
you have the
we're,
amendment?
taking
You
it
have the
coming
amendment?
anyway.
The amendment that we did?
Yeah.
Yes, I do.
It's the amendment to our affordable housing.
Yes.
So if you could send that to me, then I can look at that along with this, send it to everybody, so we all
Oh,
have
it's
it.
about this one. It's in the minutes. It's in the minutes.
Yeah, I think I sent this out before, but I'll send it out again.
Yes.
Chris.
As long as we're taking incoming anyway, we could consider doing some other things like proposing that we expand sewer. We were pretty careful in our wording about it.
Oh, no, we
First
had
time
that.
We do have
It's in there.
It's
Yeah,
a,
it
we haven't-
is,
It's,
but
it's,
everybody,
it's,
Yeah, but that's-
it's not a lot of appetite for that.
But one of the things that I learned from that
Money
TAC
reason.
walk that was so interesting is that they
Oh, we didn't talk
don't
about
know
TAC.
where the sewer and water lines are for the Country Club of Woodbridge property. And they're operating on the assumption that all of them will have to be replaced.
yeah, because they're private lines.
Which means that the town is going to get in the business of applying for the money necessary to support the construction of sewer and water lines. And if they're in the business of getting the money to do that and doing it, thinking about doing it in some other parts of town might not be quite so alien. So maybe it's an opportunity for us to step in and say, don't forget that if you extend that line up past, say, for example, up past the JCC, you might be able to have higher density housing in that part of town, or some other part of town that we want to identify.
Well, that's what the regional housing strategy is interesting, because they do talk about, they do the scenario that if you are able to expand where your current infrastructure is by a half a mile, what does that open up?
Yes.
So it's interesting.
The maps are really interesting.
Yeah, it is pretty interesting, so.
There's also some stuff on technological improvements to septic and that kind of stuff.
Oh, yeah.
Maybe to be able to higher density, because it's more efficient.
Yeah,
So
yeah.
that's something, I assume it's something that can be described.
Right, and maybe it's bringing in somebody, just an informational session for the community, because it doesn't have to be, because you're right, there's some the technological, advances where you could have because certainly in Litchfield, they have like, I think in Guilford when Aaron came, what did they have, like 30 units on a system?
So that sort of information could be included in the plan with a link to the date.
You should try to.
Because that's
I think
important.
having like maybe a community session, and so people, developers, people that own land that might want to think of doing something. That's another good community information session. So, all right.
So this is going to be a top priority for our next meeting?
Yes.
Okay.
Well, unless you want to stay, no one's throwing us out. Do you want to dive into it some more, or
What's this place or something?
8 o'clock.
They do.
Not what
8
I'm-
o'clock Eastern time?
I don't know,
Yeah.
that's a good
I mean,
question.
she did tell me to leave at 8 o'clock, but, and I know.
Nobody else did.
Yeah, so.
I'm gonna sneak out this door
The staff
right
left?
here.
Staff left.
So we have free run of the building forever.
Oh, the
So
staff.
who's gonna-
So
who's gonna
who's gonna
close
lock up?
I think they already did.
Self-lock. Don't leave
Oh, they locked
anything
us in here for the night?
They locked us in?
I
We got
repeat.
bathrooms.
Yeah, we got.
The document I sent from Greenwich, by the way, is their FAQs that they did in 2022 under 30G. It's actually quite good if they're accurate. But look at section 19, or question 19, that's where they have the information on the accessible dwelling units.
19 in what, Lou?
Big
The
range.
document I sent
French,
out.
Oh, okay.
frequently asked questions.
Okay.
Yeah. And I think there was a link to affordable housing plans from the other document I think I first sent out from the Commission on Connecticut's future and development. They had all the plans, and I think they're hyperlinked, all the plans. So with that, I think next month, we possibly may have a guest from SCROG, but that would be part of the update to the affordable housing plan. But we really need to work on number 5 and just start rolling through that information. So, Chris, did you think about like
I will
what?
go through this and I will make some notes on what we need to look at and we'll come back and look at it.
Yeah, I would say I recommend everybody looking and making notes up to page whatever. I'll task that to you, and then we'll be prepared to come in and at least finish off that chunk of plan, and then we could do that over a course of a couple meetings for leadership. Okay, so
Can I have an early dinner tonight?
yeah. Have a-
Motion to adjourn?
Second that.
All in favor?
All right.
All right, thanks, everybody.